Grand Rising, what's up? I love the vibes that you bring
Hello.
every time. I love it. I love it.
Got to.
I'm like always
Did you
scrolling
go?
my timeline, and then like I see like these like just people doing whatever, and then like I see you there with your light and everything. I'm always like tapping in, like, oh, this is cool.
Yes, thank you,
Yeah,
thank you. Do you go by Kim or Kimberly?
Kim usually most of the time. Yeah.
All right, all right. Well, welcome friends and welcome friends of Kim. We are here. First of all, there's probably more people that don't know me. My name is Jeezy. Welcome. I am based in the plants, and me and Kim have gotten together under a common subject. I really think that we're doing the same thing in our own ways.
Right.
I love it. I love, honestly, I'm on your email list, so I learn a lot from what you're doing. And I'm like, okay, so this is how you're doing
Nice.
this, and this is how you're doing the bundle.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
So, yeah, so it's nice to be able to have just another peer who's doing the same things. And I know that there's a lot that, your perspective can help a lot of the people that I'm working with, and vice versa. So it's just an honor to have you on.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, when I overheard part of the live that you did with Shawal, I think it earlier in the year. I don't remember when it was exactly, a couple of months ago or a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And your story was so inspiring. Just the fact that you've overcome so much. I didn't get to hear the full realm of it. But what I heard from it, I was just like, oh my gosh, like I have to talk to this guy, because like, just like you just said, like it's hard to find people that are like-minded and on the same journey, on the same path. You know what I mean? And just genuine people, and not just that, right? But like genuine people that really want to see people heal, and not somebody who's like, oh, I'm just a middleman that wants to, provide for a community. Somebody who really like a mission behind what they're doing, and they have a reason why. Like I get up every day as if I'm going to war, because I'm in a battle. I'm in a war.
Yes.
Because I've lost family to this war that we're in. I've lost both of my parents to this war that we're in. Both my parents were addicts. My dad was a heroin addict. My mom was a meth addict. I grew up with my single mom my entire life, and just in crazy situations. I've gone through so much shit as a child, and just seeing what addiction does to a family, what it does to a person. I really had to start raising myself at the age of 7 because of the state that my mom was in. And then she passed away when I was 17. And so I know firsthand just what she was addicted to, pharmaceuticals too. So she was just like addicted to everything, and my dad was an alcoholic, just so much, right? So I take it very personally. I know what people are dealing with. I somehow, I don't know, the source got a hold of me. I was raised in a religious background too. So I really clung to that as a child. I clung to my faith, and I said, I'm not going to be like this. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to take this route. I'm going to, even though I didn't really have any like positive role models or like anything, I don't know. It was just the spirit inside of me said like, no, we're going to do something different. Like there's something different for us. Right. So I've never done a single drug other than like, I've never done it because I saw what it did to my family. And when I started smoking weed when I was like 17 after my mom died, I was like, oh, I'm gonna smoke weed now because I'm depressed or whatever. And then like I was thinking I was doing a drug, and I felt so bad about it, right? But then I started doing the research on that, and like I got married young. My husband at the time, he was like smoking weed all the time, and I was like, you're doing a horrible thing. You're doing drugs, like, don't you know? And then like I started doing all the research. I'm like, I'm gonna prove him wrong. I'm gonna show him how he's doing drugs. And so I was just so against drugs, because I didn't want any part of that. And then I started doing all the research. I just could not find, I couldn't find anything to prove that this was actually harmful. And I was like, wait a minute, maybe I'm believing something wrong about this plant or this, this weed. And then, so that was like my entry point into like plant medicine, was like smoking here and there. And then, I don't know if you wanted me to go on this rant.
No. Honestly, that's what we're here for. Definitely want to hear your journey for sure, and how you keep going, because I want to know how it turned into microdosing. Like, how did you transition into mentoring with psychedelics?
Yes. Keep going. So it's 2015, and I'm at this company event, right? And we're celebrating a lot of achievements, and we had watched DMT, the spirit molecule, the document, highly recommend.
Yes.
Highly recommend, pardon the pun, for you guys to go watch that one if you haven't. We watched it, we're like, wow, that seems like an amazing experience. Like, I can't wait to do this. How do we figure out where do we find this stuff, you know? So we're all excited about it. And obviously, like, I know now the way that the medicine works is like, it finds you, like whatever substance you're supposed to work with, I believe it'll find you, right? So we're at this event, and then one of our friends, they're like, hey, you know, this guy, we'll call him, you know, Jeremy. That wasn't his name, but he's like, Jeremy has DMT. We're like, he does? Oh my God. Like, we met him at his hotel room. We go in there. They have everything set up all cool in their hotel room. Like there's like they got a big, huge, like, I don't know I think it was like a third eye chakra, a huge Tibetan like singing bowl. And they have like essential and everything. And we're like, dang, this is cool. So there was like maybe like 4 or 5 of us, and we're like going in there. And so I saw a couple of people went before me, and the guy was like, you know, telling us how to do it right, make sure do inhalation, stuff like that. And I was like, I'm going to like, I was in my mind, I was making up, I was like, I'm going to go the deepest. I'm going to go deeper than all of these people. And I had no idea what to expect. I just thought, I'm like, I'm going to fly through space or whatever. Like, I'm going to do it. And so when I did it, like, I inhaled as if I was like trying to save my children's lives. Like, I was just like,
oh shit.
I tell people this and they don't really believe me, but I literally was in there for like 25 minutes. And that's probably pretty long for like from what I understand. I don't know, maybe it's, I thought that usually it's like the average is like maybe like 10 minutes, 15, but I was literally maybe even 30. And at one point I was like, okay, is it done now? Like, this is too much. Like, I immediately began flying through, you know, you go through, I heard it, and then boom, I started flying through this tunnel of all this Egyptian hieroglyphic, all these things. And I started seeing all this, and I just started seeing stuff that I couldn't even make up in my mind. Like, there's no way my mind could have made up anything that I saw or experienced. And it's hard to also put into words, as I'm sure you can relate. Other people who experienced it, it's hard to relate. But I came back from that experience knowing for a fact that like, this is a literal, like, this is a simulation that we're in. Like, I could see, the way I explained it to people back then was like, I saw the fabric of reality. Like, I saw what everything made of. I saw entities. And at that time I was scared. Now, when I went into this, I had, like I said, heavy religious background, but I was just learning about like law of attraction and all this stuff. So I was like dabbling in that, but I felt very guilty for exploring that. I felt guilty for exploring spirituality and other spiritual cultures and stuff like that. I felt like I was doing something wrong. So the whole time I was like, Jesus is my savior. Okay. I believe in God. Like,
you got this guilt.
Myself, I was like, well, a piece of hair just in my mouth. I was like, hey, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have came here. Like, I was like, I thought I did something wrong, right? And the biggest thing for me was like, I was so afraid I wasn't going to come back and I wasn't going to be able to be with my kids. And like the whole thing, I was like, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm a mom. Like, what had happened? Like, but now I know, like, that was just me giving into the fear and the discomfort, you know?
Right.
But I came back from it really a changed person, and really just having a huge different perspective shift on just reality and nature, and just like, wow, the universe, and oh my God, there's more to this than I could ever have imagined, right? And so that happened, and then time passes by, and like 2019 rolls around, and we had moved into a new house. And this point in time in my life, I was experiencing like one of the lowest valleys. Like, you know, we experienced it.
Dips and valleys.
And like, this was one of the lowest ones, right? Where like, I just like felt like everything in my life was going wrong. Like, nothing was going right. I felt miserable. I was dealing with depression, and also like postpartum depression, because I just had my daughter Nevaeh. And so I was dealing with that. I had anxiety. I just was constantly worrying about everything in my life, just constant, like I could not be present with my children. And that was for me, that was the number one thing that I wanted to change about myself, was I would try to play with them, and I would just be constantly worrying about, how am I going to do this and when, and like financial worries and worries about my relationship, and just all this worry and stress and anxiety and just all of it, right? I could not be in the present moment. I just was constantly thinking about the past and how I made all these mistakes and how am I here and how's it going to change? And just every narrative in my mind was just horrible. It was terrible. And it was a victim-based mentality that I fell into too. Even after like so many years of like personal development, spiritual development, I just got myself in this dark place where like, now I know it's for a reason, so I can experience some other sides of things and relate to people and help them and coach them and stuff like that. But at that, like, how the hell am I here? And what do I do, right? So Shawal somehow, I don't even remember, but he got some mushrooms. and we decided, oh, let's start, let's start growing our own, and let's see, like, he wanted to do like higher doses, and then I was researching microdosing, and we found because we like live in a rural area, we're like an hour north of Nashville. So like we're far from like any like major cities and stuff like that. So like we didn't have any connections or anything. So we're like, okay, let's learn how to do our own. Let's like learn from this little kit or whatever.
Wow.
We had grown some, and I had them not dried. I had plucked some, and like I was trying to figure out the weight of like what is actual like dose. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna take this. I thought I was taking a low dose that I'd be able to. I'm gonna clean the house. I'm gonna walk around. I'm gonna go outside and do this stuff. So I ate these mushrooms that were not dry. They were raw, or plucked, fresh. And I'm walking around, and then I sit down on the couch, and like I start to see things, and then I start to see a lot of visuals similar to my DMT experience. And I was like, Schwa, I think I might have taken too much. He's like, no, whatever. I'm like, no, I'm like, I feel like I'm like really, like I feel like I smoke DMT right now. Like I gotta go lay down. Like I went and laid down, right? So microdose, I learned the hard way. That way it was not. And
that's the best way to learn.
Now that I'm like, and this was Golden Teacher, I think I probably took maybe like 3 grams or something like that. So I went and laid down, had a full blown like psychedelic experience with that, and I experienced so many things. I experienced the oneness with the universe. I experienced like what I can explain in my words today as like life as a plant. Like I became a plant, and like I know what it's like to be a plant. And then like I felt the earth communicating to me about how just like we're misusing the resources, and just all of this stuff about like nature and just conservation and just all that. So like right after that experience, I got really into like permaculture and learning all these things about gardening. And then like 2020 was rolling around too. So like everyone else was like starting to get into that too,
Starting to wake up.
Experience a few life-changing things happened for me. I re-experienced the oneness feeling and sensation, and I experienced something that I mean, I guess you can say, my higher self was talking to me, or my higher self was, first of all, I realized like all the times that I was comforted as a child when I felt alone. I like just kept saying when I was in it, I kept saying like, it was me the whole time. It was always me. Like, oh my God, it was me. Like, I was just like having this realization, like there was a higher aspect of me that was just always leading myself. Like, even when I thought I was alone, like this higher aspect of myself, which you can call the Christ, or you can call it God, or you can call it whatever you want. But when I was in there, I was just saying like, oh my God, it's always been me. It was me. And then I had this realization, this higher self was like, try to feel worried right now. And I was like, oh, I can't do it. And then it's like, try to feel worried about your bills, try to feel anxious, try to feel anxiety, try to feel depression. It was like trying to like get me to get that feeling, and I couldn't feel it. Whoa, this is what I'm supposed to feel like. I'm supposed to be like, not even perceiving limitation, not even perceiving lack, I'm not even supposed to be stressed out. Like, we're not supposed to be experiencing these states. When we're in our perfect higher mind, divine mind state, there is no such thing as a lack or limitation. There's only abundance. There's only wholeness. You're feeling alive. You're feeling on fire, on purpose, lit up with the divine presence, with energy, right? And so that feeling, and it was like towards the end when I remember I was laying on my bed. I was looking out this window that I'm looking out right now, and I was seeing the trees and the leaves. Like, I was seeing everything start to like reformulate into physical reality. And I was just having this experience of like, okay, now you have to take this back into your everyday life and remember this, like, this is how you're supposed to be, right? And so from that whole experience forward, I was like, all right, that was good, that was deep. Like, I don't want to be doing that all the time. It was very intense, and like I'm busy, like I remember part of it was stressful for me because like I had my little kids running around. I was like, I need you to take them away. I need to go in my room by myself. Like, I can't be like trying to like. I remember I even like touched my baby. She was like, I don't know, at this point she was like 4 months old. I was like, go take her somewhere else. I got to be over here. And like, she was like melting into me. I was like, you got to take her. I don't even know where she begins and I end. Like, this is crazy, right? Do deeper experiences like very often, or not until much later. And I was, well, let me look into this microdosing stuff. Let me see, like, what is this about? Like, why are people doing that, right? So then that's when I just started. Back then, there wasn't nearly as much information on it as there is now, right? We have so many articles and so much science is coming forward and all that. But in 2019, 2020, there was just a little bit. But from what I found, I was like, okay, like, let me try this. Let me see what it is. And of course, the day after the trip was like amazing, right? Because the day after, you're just like, you're feeling like refreshed, your brain like it got a shower. Like it just feels,
yeah.
And then when I started, I don't remember exactly how much time in between that I started the microdosing, but to fast forward, you know, just I began the protocol of just like 1 day on, 2 days off, and I just followed that. And I was noticing like, wow, like this anxiety that I was having it's not coming back. Like I still had like the logic of like, okay, I know I have these problems. I know I have this going on over here and this is not cool, but I wasn't experiencing it the way that I used to, if that makes sense. In which I explain to clients and I explain to people like it's becoming the witness, becoming the observer of yourself, your reality, your thoughts. I was given a new perception and a new perspective to where I could start looking at those problems that I had in a new way so that I can actually solve them, which is Einstein says, you know, we can't solve problems at the same level of consciousness that they were created. We have to lift ourselves. We have to do something to get ourselves at a new vibration. Otherwise, we're trying to solve a problem in the same, like it's like looking at
in it.
And you're like, solve it from, you can't do that, right?
You have to remove yourself from it. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to see it from the outside in instead of seeing it from just in the midst of it. And so I just continued on and I was start seeing all these benefits. Now, me, from the, like I mentioned, from the background that I was in, I was very hesitant to share this. I was hesitant to share this journey up until like a year ago, like a year and a half ago. Like I was still nervous when I was posting on Facebook. I didn't have this I had this Instagram had a different name, and it was like I was just sharing like manifestation stuff and a little bit of microdosing stuff here and there, but I was still very nervous to share that. I didn't feel like I was convicted that I am convicted and was that, you know, this is definitely a medicine. It's not a drug, obviously, but I was still caring too much about what others would think and others' perception and the judgment and, oh, you're a mom, you shouldn't be doing this. What are you, you know, and of course, relatives here and there of like their judgment of like thinking that we're over here, we're just in this house doing drugs and shit.
Doing drugs, yeah.
Things.
Of course.
And the whole thing.
Some people will always
right.
do that.
And like for me, I'm like, I don't want anyone thinking like I'm anything like my parents. Like I don't want them thinking, oh, you're just becoming like if relatives, distant relatives, I don't really keep in touch with, like if they check in and look and see what I'm doing, I don't want them to think like, oh shit, Kimberly went down the same road that her mom went down or whatever. Like, and then I realized I just had to let that go and know that like, I know that I'm not going down that same path. And in fact, I'm actually helping people out of that path. And I have to share this. So I just became so inspired and really just driven by the spirit inside of me to start sharing more. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to start sharing more. I'm going to start sharing more of my journey and sharing more articles and things like that. So I just started sharing more on my Facebook, and then like people started reaching out. Like, how do I get started? How do I do this? And like, of course, like, I don't know, like, I'm not a person to be like, go research it and find it yourself. Like, I'm a helper. Like, I'm a person who like wants to help and wants to inspire and wants to empower people. So like, I had a little handful of people that I'm like, oh, you know, we can help you with this. And so it started out like that. And then I made this one, if you guys look at my timeline, it's the one microdosing reel that has almost 1 million views now, just like randomly. I posted this reel, and this is for those of you who are entrepreneurs out there, you're building a business like us or anything like that. Like, don't get discouraged about the content that you're putting out there, because you never know when or what reel or what's going to go viral for you. But the timing is everything. Like the timing that this video just started to go viral was crazy. So like in November, just all of a sudden I'm like, oh, people are really liking this. I reposted it for like the 4th time too that I reposted it on my Instagram. This 4th time, for some reason, I don't know, just started getting shared, started getting comments, started going crazy. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then like I was inspired to create my microdosing guide, which I just threw basically all the questions that people were coming to me all the time. I found myself just answering the same questions all the time. I was like, all right, I got this into a thing that I could just send it to people, because I'm sitting here like consulting people all day, like telling them everything, sharing articles, links, and doing all this stuff. I was like, let me just create this guide. I could send them the guide, right? So then I created that, and then I was like, all right, let me just set up this little thing, and yeah, just kind of like blew up into this.
And now we got microdosing monthly.
And yeah, microdosing monthly came along, or like that's a funny story of how. Now here's another thing, like the bravery and the courage that it takes to do this in our society right now, right? Because like you're doing something brave every day. I'm doing something brave every day. We're having courage every day in sharing what we do and sharing how we do, you know, and just knowing that we're doing the right thing. Like I saw somebody quoted you the other day and said something like, you know, when there's an unjust law, it's the ethical thing to not follow,
to break it,
to not, our world needs people like you, needs people like me, needs people like those of you in the comments here to stand up with that, you know, and to not allow these unjust laws to keep people stuck and addicted to these pharmaceuticals and addicted to these actual drugs that are doing harm and all this stuff. So it takes courage to do this. It takes actually caring about others, because, you know, you don't have to put yourself on the line. I don't have to put myself on the line. We don't have to do this, but we do it because we care. You know, we're doing it because this literally is a mission. Like, I feel
like you were saying,
this, you know,
like you were saying, we are at war, and from, like I always say when I go live, like, if you just look at the numbers of what's going on with the medical system, we are at war, and there are people that are at war with us. And if you just look at how many people are dying in hospitals and how they're dying, it's very clear to see that there is war. And then there's warfare that's not clear to see, like the frequency war and the 5G and the chemtrails and the tap water. And so when you put all the factors in aggregate, it's clear that we're at war. And so for me, like, the war is informational. It's voluntary. Everybody who is suffering and dying in this war is voluntarily doing it. They're choosing now, at this point, they're choosing the suffering. They're choosing the toxins, they're choosing the poison. And so something I'm really passionate about, and what we're both doing, is we're shifting the narrative of what are mushrooms, what is LSD, what is MDMA, what is DMT. People have this idea that it's just drugs that you take and you get an experience. And I'm very passionate about getting people to see that this little mushroom is one piece of a holistic approach. And something that we're doing that's allowing people to get so much success is, I'm telling people, like, hey, no, your body heals itself when you take everything out. When you stop eating, when you stop like putting in more toxins, the body will go about healing itself. And these mushrooms can connect you to that process. So the mushrooms, when you take a microdose or a macrodose, it will tell you where the pain is, where the toxins are. This is like why you get certain feelings and certain traumas. It's kind of like the medicine stirring it up, whether it's trauma or whether it's toxins. The mushrooms stir it up, and we're just here, like me and you. I feel like we're just here to navigate people through, and to honestly to push the envelope in that, you know, this is honestly, because the way I see it now, this is the legitimate medicine. This is like the stuff that cures you in one dose, potentially cures you in one cycle, versus what the hell are they giving people in the hospitals? You know, the idea that you should be on a pill for 5 years, 10 years, for your whole life. Like, people are just normalized to that idea. Like, oh yeah, I'm taking my meds. Like, my dad's been on statins his whole life. My mom's been on insulin her whole life. Like, and that's my war. That's where I'm like, no matter how successful I get, and no matter how many people praise me, somebody even said, oh, my therapist recommended you to me. Like, my parents are never going to see that. They look at me and they just think I'm like a surfer. Like, they don't have no idea what I'm doing. They just know I'm in Florida and they just hope I'm okay, you know, but I'm over here like on this mission. Like, I'm decentralized, have like a shipping house in California, trying to work on a shipping house in Florida, and trying to set up this, basically, there's two things. I'm setting up a future for myself, because I know what's possible now, and I know what world we live in. So I know, like, if it pays, it plays, you know. So I'm setting up this future for myself, but at the same time, I'm trying to create a safe place where people can come to and get real information and real products and the truth, basically the truth, you know, and the stuff that we're giving is the real truth. So yeah, thank you for sharing your story. Anybody have any questions for Kimberly below? Let's get into some questions, you guys. If you do have any questions for Kimberly, use the question mark icon, type it in the question mark icon below, so I can get it properly. And yeah, like, let's just keep it going. So
one of the things that I'm passionate about right now in this point in time is that I read this statistic that the number 3 cause of death in the youth today in this country, ages 15 to 24, is suicide right now. And being a mother, being a parent that has children within, I have one child that's within that age range, but eventually all my children are going to be within that age range. It's just like, first of all, suicide is crazy to me anyways. Like, no one should feel like such hopelessness that they have to be like, I'm out. You know what I mean? Like this place, this dimension, this earth plane can get very challenging, and you can feel very alone and isolated, and you can feel like, you know, there's really, like, there's been, in some of my lowest times, I felt like, I'm like, you know, I've had thoughts before where I was like, you know, maybe my children would be better off if I wasn't here, because I don't want to be a bad influence. I don't want to bring them these problems that I have, you know? So I know, to the extent of like that, I know what it feels to be in darkness, and I don't, you know, I've never tried to take my life or anything. Luckily, thank God, like I've always found the light before I got to that point. But I feel for people that are like in those situations, and especially our children, and especially because it's like, well, why in the world would a 15-year-old want to take their life? Or even, I know children are taking their lives younger than that. Why would they want to do that? You know, there's a number of reasons. You know, first and foremost, there was another statistic. I don't have the numbers right here, and I don't have my laptop, but there's another one that, like, they're putting doctors, this is actually so bad. The doctors are putting toddlers and children and youth on these pharmaceuticals for their mental health.
I was just gonna say that's what's leading to the suicide right there, is all the chemicals.
They're too hyper. They can't focus. They can't think, or whatever. They're doing this. They're doing that. They're acting weird or whatever. Like, the doctor, oh, here, give them this pill. That's really, it's like, it's like the same thing as speed. You're giving them. You're giving them these real drugs that's like actually harming their brain. It's harming their bodies, setting them up. And what I see through the shit. I see the pharmaceutical companies. We cannot be stupid. We cannot be blind. We have to see they're a conglomerate. They're a huge business operation. You know what business operations do? They get a paper, they get a pen, and they make a plan, right? They have a whole, like, here's how we start them out when they're an infant here. We make sure little things are in there. And then once they're this age, we get them in here. It's a whole conveyor belt of like, how can we customer as young as possible and keep them as a customer for their whole life? That way they're in the medical system and they're over here in this. And going even deeper than that, how can we make sure that people just do not discover this divine spark in themselves? How can we make sure that they don't think for themselves? How can we make sure that they don't ask questions and question what we're saying is the truth? How do we make sure that they don't, you know, that's one of the things that has become so alive in my life over the past, I'm on my 4th year of like working with this medicine, but really over the past 2 years, because there was a lot of things that, like, you'll be introduced to questions that make you very uncomfortable and scare you. Your ego's like, don't ask that question. I believe that shit my whole life. Don't tell me that this isn't real. And you will have to really dig deep and find out, you know, is this the truth? I have to take a step back. And some things that you've been believing your entire life, that you have been comfortable and thinking it's the truth and all this stuff, I'm sorry, it's just not. It's not the truth, you know? And that's for you to discover. I don't tell anybody what to believe. I don't tell anybody even to believe things that I say. I say, research everything that I say. You know, I will never be a person like, no, this is the truth and that's it. Now there's some things like, you know, kindness for all beings, equality for all beings, leave people alone, stuff like that. I will tell you, like, that's
like natural law.
Exactly. Natural law. Like, that is like common sense type of stuff. I will stand on that. Yeah.
So speaking, going back to the kids thing, like right now, going back to this war, okay, what they're doing is they're going to their ACE card and they're going to the kids, and this is the ultimate detachment from nature as they go to convince children that they're the wrong gender. And it's the power of suggestion. So I'm not going to say this does not exist, but what's happening in our school system, what's happening in the education and medical system conglomerate, where it's all now education, military, medical, all melding into one control system now. And they're convincing kids, getting kids to think about sterilizing themselves, because I know it's called gender affirming surgery, but these children are now sterilizing themselves. So now as the system now has control of the kids via the school system, they're pulling kids into sterilizing themselves. And now we have, because I know that maybe it was in one of your emails, but this idea of kids and microdosing. Now we have to bring it into this, because I have been helping on the low parents with their children with things like microdoses and lion's mane and some of these conditions that children have with neurological conditions. So these mushrooms, not even just the psychedelic ones, but just even the medicinal mushrooms, for the parents who have the courage to go outside of the line and honestly risk it, because in this environment, this biological warfare environment, if somebody reports you for giving your children mushrooms right now in this environment, they can take your kids away. This is as serious as it gets right now. You can be in a situation where you're fighting against the system for your kids, and you're trying to do the best you can for your kids, and they can take your kids away. Now, this is, I think, this is where the rubber meets the road of the warfare. When we're talking about them having the ability to take your kids based on your health beliefs, right. You know, and so I just wanted to mention that this is really where it's happening right now, you guys, and how you choose to navigate with your kids, whether you just asleep at the wheel and you let the system take care of them, or like you think that your teachers and the nurses know better for your children than you. Like that's really where for me, that's where the war is being fought, in terms of having your kids grow up in that kind of environment, or choosing to keep them in a natural environment, like a conducive, loving environment where they're not here doubting their gender, which is just, for me, like that's just appalling right there.
Yeah. Like,
so
I'm really about, like, I guess I'm not political, but if I had to, like, if I was forced to choose something, I would be, like, I guess, like, libertarian in my views of, like, let people do what they want to do. And, like, but when it comes to children, there's an influence there, and there's, we know through science that the first 8 years of a child's life, they're very, their subconscious is just open and it's just accepting, and at that point, we just need to leave them alone. We just need to not try to influence them. I even, here's what I believe too, is like,
right.
You shouldn't even force whatever spiritual beliefs that you have, religious beliefs, on children. Like we share natural laws with our children. We share things that are, like, very general, but the way that I parent is, like, you're going to figure it out on your own. If you go and you're like, you want to become some religious person, or you want to explore the spirituality, or you want to do something like that, I'm not going to disown you. I'm just going to let you do what you want to do in regards to that, in regards to your beliefs and stuff like that. Because here's something else that I believe too, and that I've come to, like, really explore and understand, and, like, I'm still really exploring it, but is, like, the idea that we came into this dimension with, like, some people call it, like, soul contracts, or, like, okay, I'm gonna go into here, I'm gonna experience this, and you're gonna be over here, and you're gonna be my parent, and I'm gonna be your friend, and you're gonna do this to me, and I'm gonna do that to you, and it's all for the soul's evolution of, like, we're all in this thing, playing this game of life in this dimension for the ultimate soul evolution and collective evolution, all these things, right? So I've been exploring that whole thing too, right? So I know, like, and it's really helped me as a parent to detach from some things. What you're saying is different though, because it's like the government system. Like, it's different if a parent is like, hey, you may or may not be, like, an actual gender or something like that. But for a government or a school or something outside entity to come through and try to influence that, it's wrong, because it's like, first of all, you shouldn't even be getting involved in anything to do with anything we put in our body, anything that we believe, or anything that we personally want to do in our lives. Like, the government should just not, that's not the purpose. That's not the purpose of what a leadership should be, or how it originally was supposed to be, right? So, but back to I guess it's like a sovereignty viewpoint that I have, is like, I believe that, like, the divine spark is in everyone, it's in all of us, and it's in our children, and they will always be led back to that light if they're searching and educated properly to always be, like, looking for that alignment, that place of alignment, where it's like, you can get off track and go over here and do all this stuff, but it's just you're going to find yourself coming back to that one path, right? But I wanted to bring up something, because you brought up some stuff that made me think, and it's like, well, people probably feel very, like, what are we supposed to do then? Like, we just wait around for them to legalize? Like, obviously a lot of people are just not waiting around, and we really don't have time for, oh, let's just wait for them city by city to decriminalize, and then I'm going to start my, like, a lot of people, they're in a desperate place where they can't wait for that. And we don't know how long it's going to take. We have Robert Kennedy, or whatever his name is, saying that, oh, I'm going to legalize everything. I'm going to legalize all stuff, which I think that would, like, I really think that everything should be legalized. And then, like, here's what I believe about, like, here's what I see, and, like, what I really feel like I've been shown by the medicine. Like, I don't agree, and I don't know how you feel. You could chime in too, in regards to, like, what they're doing right now with these clinical trials, and, like, they're synthesizing this, and they're basically patenting the psilocybin. psilocybin or the psilocin.
Yeah.
And I don't think I don't think we should be doing that. Like, it's good that they're making the progress and they're bringing the awareness and all this, see that. And I don't really know if there's a way to even doing that. But what I think the original organic holistic thing to do is just let people have the mushrooms, let them grow them themselves, let's go back to the original, let's bring in the indigenous conversation into the whole, you know, conversation that we're having, and like know that cultures for thousands of years have been using these substances, and mushrooms specifically. You know, I have my dad was Mexican, and I don't know a whole lot of my ancestral lineage and things like that, but I have a suspicion that like somewhere in the lineage these substances were used, because I have understandings and like just like connections that I don't really know, because I don't work personally with like a shaman person or anything like that, but I'm like, how am I able to like get this wisdom or this knowledge? And it's got to be like somewhere, maybe like in my DNA or something like that. I've been like kind of like exploring that. But why can't we just go back, like, first of all, legalize everything, right? Let people do what they want to do. And within, like, people like me and people like you and people like, you know, people who are would be considered like shamans or medicine people, like, let's let them teach us what we're supposed to do with these substances and the ceremonies and things like that. Like, we don't need, now if you want to, here's the whole sovereignty thing though. If you want to go to a clinical office and lay on their couch or whatever and take a pill and do it like that, then you should be able to go do it like that. But if you want a ceremony where there's, you know, there's sound healing and there's chanting and there's a shaman and there's someone who's leading you there and helping you, and there's Icaros and there's all this stuff, you should be able to do that as well. And I lean more towards that way of like, we need to learn like what were our ancestors doing with these substances? What were they doing? Because DMT was used also, like all of these plants, all of this stuff that you read the Bible, right? Like people who are, you know, Christians, or anybody who's read the Bible, like you read these things, right? These stories of like these visions and all this stuff. And it's like, these people were not having these visions out of nowhere. Like, they were utilizing plants, and there's so many things to support. So many, what do you call it? The relics of, what's the word that I'm looking for?
It was just regular. It was regular to that culture.
Yeah. It was normal back then to like be one with nature and consume nature and yes, to commune with God while you're in the higher states of plants. And then like the whole fun thing that's funny with me is like, Shawal has done a lot of like research on this, and he put together his own little like research guide on this. But like, it's like, it says that the high priest went inside and he burned incense, and he basically was like hotboxing this. Like, when you put it into like a layman's term, it's like the dude was going in behind a veil or behind a curtain. And back then you're like, what was it? What was he doing? Like, what was all this smoke? Like, why was the purpose? Like, why was he filling it up with smoke? Why was he completely engulfed in this thing? And what was he trying to do? And so I won't go too deep on that, but go explore that, right? There's definitely, there's things out there to go explore it deeper. But the whole thing is like, there's a way that we can all reach wellness and wholeness and the healing that we're looking for in our bodies and in our minds and in our spirits. And those who are indigenous to this earth, who have been working with these substances and these medicines for thousands of years, they have a blueprint. Like, they'll know, like, and you brought in the youth, right? And those cultures, like, people of all ages go into their ceremonies. There's people of all ages that go into ayahuasca ceremonies in these cultures where it's normal. Like the kids, I don't know, I imagine it's like the kids acting up, whatever, take him to the freaking ceremony, put him in there over there, like he's gonna be, you know, like oh, he's having this attitude, whatever, like he's having these problems, like put him in the ceremony, put him through the thing, like he's gonna be good, like, you know what I mean? And I feel like that would, I foresee a future where it's like, it's normal to like do mushrooms within your family of all age ranges. And, you know, whether it's in micro form or, you know, you as a parent, you will know first and foremost when it's right, and if it's right for you, firstly, and if it's right for you and your child. Like we have to get reconnected to our intuitions. That's what medicine does. And you talked about, like, it puts you on the path. It's like a stepping stone. It's like a guide. And that's ultimately what it does. Is nature, when we ingest it, it's compatible with our brain and it's compatible with our body, but it's also compatible. Like I tell people, mushrooms they're an energy medicine. They're a frequency medicine. Like, they literally will put you on the frequency that you need to be on to receive information from the universe so that you can make the right decisions in your life, in all areas of life. but specifically for your health. So you'll know, all of a sudden you'll start feeling like, why am I eating this? Why am I addicted to this food?
You start questioning your actions and analyzing.
Why am I doing these actions and these activities? And you will slowly but surely turn yourself into a brand new person.
Right. And I was going to say a little bit about what you were saying about the direction that the country is going in terms of like they're synthesizing things, they're doing clinical studies. And like, so what I've been able to lay out is that they're following a blueprint, and this blueprint has been gone over many times with many different plant substances. And so because if you want to know the future, you can look into the past, because history goes in cycles. And so if you look at what they have done with the medicinal substances of tobacco, dare I say, even alcohol and cannabis, like these things that we now view as drugs, alcohol, poison, like at one point alcohol was used for medicinal purposes. It has features that can help, like, you know, with pain and all that. And tobacco, if you look at what the indigenous do with tobacco, it's my first ayahuasca ceremony, what the shaman was doing with the tobacco, every puff was a prayer. Every breath that you exhale of the tobacco is a prayer. And there's healing qualities of the tobacco, and all the ways that you use the tobacco, that drops for your eyes, the stuff you put on your gums. There's like a 1,000 different medicines with tobacco. And so the blueprint is that the corporations go in and they figure out how to increase shelf life. They figure out how to genetically modify things so that they're the owners of the whatever they're creating and selling, because you can't copyright nature, right? But if you modify it, you can copyright it. And so just look at how society views tobacco. Look at what we're doing, how we're abusing tobacco. We just smoke it, we drink alcohol, we eat junk food, and we turn this spiritual tool into something that gets us deeper into the hellhole of being toxic. And so I can see that nefariously what they're going to do with psilocybin is turn it into something that allows people to go deeper into the illusion. You know, and so that's why it's important that people like me and you are here and standing with nature and reminding people like, yo, this thing connects you to nature, i.e. your body. And it's an opportunity to come back into alignment with yourself. And I know that what the government is going to do is twist this thing. They're going to twist it. And the same thing they've done with LSD and the experiments is they're going to figure out how it can be used to get people stuck even more. You know, and that's going to happen at the same time as our timeline. And it's all going to be happening at the same time as everything always does. And it just puts more importance on everybody who's in here. You're watching this. Right. This is the reason that we're here, and we're educating each other about this stuff, because what's going to happen is this corporate takeover where it's going to be just popular to do. It's just going to be something that's cool to do. I can already see, like, if you see what they've done with cannabis, where the quality is down, like we now, the convenience is up, quality down, like pretty much in a nutshell for cannabis, right? You can just order it, you can get it delivered, but man, is it bad compared to when you used to know a grower back before, when cannabis was illegal. We knew a grower and we could just get some, you know, and it was good. So that same thing's going to be done with psilocybin. So, you know, us building these networks and these supply lines, we will be able to keep people, you know, supplied with the non-fentanyl containing stuff, because best believe fentanyl is finding its way into everything. And so we find ourselves, me and you, in a place of now responsibility to, you know, to, what is the term, to harbor or to host this, just to carry it with honor, you know, in the same way that the shaman and indigenous people before us was they held these things in a high regard and made sure that people respected them. And same thing like you, for me, like getting to this point had a lot of disrespect. Like I was mixing mushrooms with alcohol, you know, but in the same way, like that allowed me to really, like what I do, I'm like a personal trainer for psychedelics, like the way that I prescribe protocols, and now adding, like we're going to get in some yoga in there. Like I'm making recommendations that are so holistic, because it's like, you know, get in the intake, the movement, the breath work, and then the microdose. And somebody asked a question, I'll let you tackle it. Does dieting affect how you microdose, or when you should microdose?
Okay. Okay. Well, if you're starting a protocol, here's how I would answer that. If you're starting I usually recommend, and you can share what you recommend. I usually recommend you do it first thing in the day. Just when you're starting out, like do it first thing in the day, empty stomach, for potency, but also just like you don't want to be mixing it with like heavy food and things like that. Here's another thing too, is like if you study yoga, like you don't want to do yoga like right after you ate a heavy meal, because wow, it's all about getting the energy to flow. It's about getting so we have like something crazy, like I became a student of Kundalini yoga about a year ago, and I just fell in love with the whole idea of like, wow, like we have this energy body that is invisible, but it's there, and we really do have chakras, and they're there, like they're not demonic, they're there, and they're you know, each one is linked to the different organ systems in our body. And so we have 72,000 energy channels of energy. So like when we're doing breath work, when we're doing yoga, when we're doing this movement and martial arts or whatever, we're getting that energy to flow through, right? So if you ate a heavy meal and then you go to try to do that, it's gonna hinder, and it's going to affect that, right? So I think it's like kind of the same with these medicines too, is like you don't want to take it with a heavy meal, or you don't want to, you know, that's why they have you fast before you go into like a ceremony with mushrooms or ayahuasca and stuff like that. They have you fast, have you fast off of animal products for certain energetic purposes too. So there's that part. And then for me, I really I'm into learning about gut health and the microbiome, and how gut health really plays a huge role in our mental health, our brain. Like there's something like 94+% of our serotonin is developed in our gut. And who's developing that? Well, the beings that live inside of your gut are developing that. Like we're so disconnected from ourselves that we just think our body, like, I don't even know. I just think people don't think. That's what I think. They get us to a place where we just, and we're so distracted with other things. We don't sit and take time to contemplate. Maybe that's a better word, contemplating. Wait, what's going on in my body right now? Like, I'm not breathing my body. I'm not making my heart beat. I'm not doing all these things. I'm not digesting my food. Like, I didn't even fully comprehend how food was digested until like a year ago when I did a 14-day juice fast, is juice only, right? Which was so transformative for me. And like, I grew so much, and I realized how addicted to food that I was, and I was able to let a lot of things. And of course, the microdosing helps with any type of fasting and stuff. From what I found too, is like these medicines help you with fasting. But it's like there's beings that are like aware, and they're living inside of us. Like we're like a fun fact is like something like 80% and more. What is it like? I'm gonna mess this up probably. Like the human being is made of 80% bacteria and viruses or something like that. And then 20% of the cells are like human cells or something like that. So we're a conglomerate. We're a community. We're a conglomerate. And so we have these conscious beings that are in our gut, and their whole job is there to help us digest the food. And we have to give them the right things in order for us to digest the food correctly. And if we're feeding them, you know, Taco Bell and fast food and just all this stuff constantly, they're like starved out. And like there's good ones and bad ones. So it's like as above, so below, like literally like this. On the earth, we got people who have good intentions and bad intentions. Inside of us, we have good bacteria, bad bacteria. And if we're eating shit all the time, we're just feeding the bad bacteria, right?
Hey, like if the bacteria in our gut are listening to us, like they're listening to our commands, and not only our thoughts, but what we eat is a command. Like when we eat, that is an intention. That is saying, I'm bringing this into your guys' world. And so sometimes, like, I guess when we start talking about this, like people can see how they have been silently at war with themselves, with their negative thoughts and the toxic food they eat. Like, what are you saying? What intention are you sending? What prayer are you sending to that world of beings in your body? And wow, and just the microdosing can help you become aware of that. Devon just said food equals data. So what data, what input are you sending? And I just want to say, my worst trips of my life were always followed by junk food. So if anyone gets anything out of this, the big tip, you guys, this is a big one, it's going to help save your life, is don't eat shitty food when you're going to take any of this stuff, because it is going to get stirred up and it is going to be uncomfortable. And hey, well, at the same time, maybe somebody needs an experience like that, right? Because there's nothing like because when you eat shitty food, it numbs you out, right? There's nothing like eating shitty food and then taking enough psychedelics to fully feel all of that, what it's doing, the mucus, the breathing, how it affects your breathing, how it affects your posture. It really makes you rethink your habits, let alone eating. It could be all of your habits. So powerful
and it's
stuff.
crazy that you bring that up, because I think all the time, I'm like, okay, if these things are, we have cells, right? Really, it's so beautiful when you like, I've really just started connecting to like my body recently, and just this whole like contemplation of like, wow, like there really are like beings inside that like their number one priority is like, okay, let's keep this girl healthy and well, we got to keep it clean up in here, we got to make sure this is good, and we got to do this, and like they're a team, and like they want to work together, right? But when we mistreat ourselves, we think the wrong things, we eat the wrong things, we drink the wrong things, we take in the wrong substances, and to me it's all equal. What we listen to, what we put inside, what we're hearing, what we're speaking, what we put in our mouth as a substance, and everything, it's all either feeding, there's some famous quote, it's like you're feeding disease, or you're feeding yourself for wellness. Like you're making a decision every time.
Yes.
Voting.
Yes.
I'm either going to destroy myself, or I'm going to evolve myself. I'm going to make my mental health better. I'm going to make it worse. I'm going to do it. And they set us up to where we're literally, like you said, we're at war with ourselves. We're doing this to ourselves. And it's crazy because I watched some videos from this guy. You might be familiar with him. His name's Mark Pascio. He does a lot of
yeah, I love Mark Pascio. Yes.
Yeah, the one, or Pascio, or Pascio. I don't know how to say it.
Natural law guy.
He said something that really stuck out to me, and it's crazy, and I think most people don't realize this, but they set up the systems in our society in a way where like, and here's a I get so many different like lessons and teachings from my everyday life, and that's another benefit of like working with the medicine, is like every little thing can become a lesson. And we're in my kitchen, right? And here's something that's changed in me. Like I used to be like, if there's a spider, you burn down the house, like you crush that thing, like you destroy scared. And like I've been so one with nature. Like I went vegan 2 years ago now for like the third or fourth time in my life. Like I've been trying to be on this plant-based diet thing, and like I just couldn't stick to it because of like the addictions that I had, and the food addictions that I had that I didn't realize. Food is the real drug. Food is a drug, by the way.
Food is a drug.
In my kitchen, and I'm like, what do? I don't want to like crush them or anything. I was like, all right. And I even told Cheryl, I was like, I'm gonna set up these little traps right here. And please, if you guys know a better way to like get inside of your house, like I even felt bad for doing this, but I was like, I'm gonna put this here. If they take it, that's on them. They're doing their own free will choice. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, that's what our society is like. They set up they set up the pharmacy, they set thing, and they're just like, if they do it, it's on them, but we're gonna set it up. But if they do it, it's their choice. And that's how they get with doing all the shit that they do, because we're literally making our own choice. And like you said today, like today, oh my God, today there's so much information on YouTube and BitChute, wherever you want to go is free. There's so much free information that if you just invest a portion of your time every day, you can learn how to become rich and wealthy and prosperous. You can learn how to become healthy. You can learn to reverse any disease. You can learn how to do anything pretty much for free online right now, but we don't spend the time doing that. Instead, we'll just put on Netflix and just like numb out or whatever. And actually, I don't even take ownership like that. I don't live like that anymore, thank God, because of the mushrooms.
That is like the curse of convenience right now, because right now at your fingertips, you have all the information you need to create the life you want. But at the same time, you have the ability to swipe and get Netflix and Grubhub right there. Boom. Oh yeah. And weed delivered right there. If you live in Cali, it's all at the swipe of a finger. So that is the war. Like, so we talked about at the beginning of this interview, how we're at war, and how me and you really feel like we're soldiers in a war. And that's what makes it easy to get up and break the law and talk about psychedelics, but the real war, you guys, is within you guys. It's because even once you realize that we're at war, and you realize, holy shit, biological warfare, chemtrails, oh my God, tap water, oh, the heavy metals in the food, and you might become debilitated by looking at that. But there's one thing that you can and should just focus on, and it's the war going on within, like the war between what you feel, what you think, and what you do, and the goal is to win that within, like become sovereign in yourself, become the person who decides for yourself. And also the decisions that you make, understand that, like you said earlier, it's all a vote. I would even go so far as to say every breath is a vote. In that, like when you choose to breathe slow, when you choose your response, when you choose how you breathe, you're voting for yourself versus letting it get taken away from you and getting stressed out and then suppressing that with some more food and more weed. Now you're not at the helm. So I hope that we can just leave you guys with that like there's a lot going on right now. We got 2 people who can help you. We got a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of products that can help you. There's a lot of instruction that can help you. But ultimately, you are going to do it. Even when you get the stuff, you have to do it. So it's between you and yourself. And we're getting to the 5-minute mark. So I want to just leave with the best thing that I could give. And the best thing that I could give is basically understanding that when it comes down to it, it comes down to you being friends with your inner child. And so how can you speak to yourself today after you eat whatever you eat, smoke whatever you smoke, whatever you did today? Can you deal with yourself the way that you would with your child? How would you reprimand your child for eating those eggs or that hot dog? Like, would you be super negative, or would you just accept it and just like, let's keep growing, you know? And if you can be like that with yourself, treat yourself like you would your own child, you're getting closer to winning that war that we're talking about.
Yeah, compassion. That's what it's really about, is that having that compassion for yourself. And my final thought would be, like, if you're on this live and you have a diagnosis, or someone in a higher rank than you who had a bunch of medical education or whatever told you that you have this thing, you have to be on this medication for the rest of your life. I'm just going to say, just start questioning that. Here's the thing, just start asking more questions and start asking better questions and really get curious about, is this really the way it has to be? Whenever you come up with something, oh, I'm experiencing this symptom, or I have this diagnosis, or I'm on this medication, or they're saying I have to go and do this or whatever, is that really how it has to be? And there's an inner voice that's like begging you to ask that question, because it's going to give you the answer. It's going to lead you to a resource or a person like one of us, or a post, or it's crazy the way that the universe works. It will just deliver you. It's waiting. Literally, I tell my client, I'm like, everything you've ever prayed for in your life, everything you've ever asked for, even from the most subtle to like, oh, I wish I could have that, or to like, please God, please, I need this, like whatever from the most subtle desire to the most heavy desire, the universe knows what it is that you desire, and it knows what it is that you want to create and experience in your life. It's about getting out of our own way and identifying more with our higher mind and our divine mind than our ego, and then what we believe we are, who we believe that we are. So who you are truly is a healed person, a whole person, a happy person, a person who's at peace, a person who has every resource they could ever need, right? And the more that you start embracing that truth, that like, here, we're electromagnetic beings in a body. This is a vehicle. It's like a rental car. Like one of my mentors, he's like, here's how I look at it. We come to this realm where we get this vehicle called our car. It's just like if you go to another destination, you rent a rental car, right? You take care of that car. Maybe you don't. Maybe you put trash in it or whatever, and then you return it at the end of your trip. You let it go. You go on. The you that is you is the consciousness and the spirit inside of you. You're just in this body. So if you can identify more with who you truly are, that spirit, that's perfect. That doesn't have issues. Doesn't have problems. Doesn't have problems. Doesn't have anything. Your body, what takes on, the avatar takes on these problems and disease and all this stuff. When your consciousness starts to identify, I love your tagline, that body is the healer. I believe that the body is the healer, and the consciousness is what leads the body to heal itself. So if you can get tapped into that consciousness, you're going to get tapped into everything that you want, including the healing that you want, the abundance that you want, the relationship you want, everything you want. My whole thing is like creating your fuck yes life. Like, what does that mean? That means your body, you look in the mirror, you're like, fuck yeah, I look good. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's that energy.
I used to dream of looking like this. I used to dream of having a partner. I used to dream of having this business. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I used to clock in every day, hating my life, making $7 an hour. And I get.
All right, I was not even looking at the clock. That shit ran out on us.
There, it's too easy they need to increase the time for these things.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know what I was saying, but no, like I live with so much gratitude now, because it's like, and here's a lesson for those of you who are like really trying to manifest and become co-creators and really just like create the life that you want, right? Like, you have to take where you're at today and just be so appreciative of everything that you have, and think about where you used to be. Because there was a point in your life where some of the stuff you're doing today and experiencing today, you were wishing for that. You were hoping for that.
Yes.
You're living that today. And we get into a complacent of like, oh yeah, or whatever. And it takes some like shock value sometimes. Like, Go look at where other people are living life, you know, go look and see, like, people are really struggling. Like, you think you're struggling because you can't pay your $800 car note or whatever, but there's people like in other countries that are walking like 4 miles to get some dirty ass water, to drink that water, and they're so grateful that they can even get access to that. And so it's like, can you just be grateful for the water that you have? It's clear. Yes, maybe the water supply has fluoride in it, but get yourself whatever. Like, maybe you could talk about what kind of water you recommend. I'm not completely clear on like what's the actual best one, because it's like distilled versus Kangen water and all these different things. But it's about just being in that gratitude and appreciation for what you have. It's going to expand if you could just stay there. And this medicine.
A quick note, if anybody wants to read this document on distilled water and why I've been on it for like 14 years, DM me. I got a good document, and it does a good job of explaining all the types of water, and it's an argument for distilled. So if you want to DM me for that, I can send you guys that.
Yeah. I need that.
Yeah, for sure. The document is called "The Choice Is Clear" by Dr. Alan E. Bannock, and this guy that he just lays out all, and he defines like 9 types of water, including groundwater, spring water, and all that. And he just pinpoints all of the points of why distilled is better than all of these types. And basically what he says is that the distilled water isn't a type of water. It's a condition of water. Distilled water just means clean water. It just means clear water. And they've twisted it and like, oh, it's going to leach minerals. And they've got people's idea thinking that distilled water is like a scientific product. It's like, no, like distilled water, like that's what nature does with water. Nature brings up the steam and it comes back down clean. And so, like, basically, that's kind of like and you know how it goes, like something that can be explained super simply like that versus like when they tell you what Kangen water is, it's like, okay, like I have to know science now to be able to understand this. And distilled, it's just simple. It's just like the steam drip back down, pure, like because nothing else goes up with the vapor, you know,
right?
For the most part. So
pretty logical. That's cool.
But yeah, so
I think I was on a rant. I was just explaining that, like, once you can just learn to identify yourself with that true self that you are, and these substances, that's what they do when you use them correctly, and you really just get your terrain in a place where you could fully experience like what it is. Like, so back to that one question that somebody had asked, like, there's a lot of things that could make a difference in your experience in your diet. Like if you're eating, if you are if your pineal gland is like really, really calcified from like, maybe you're straight up have been drinking tap water and you had no idea, or like whatever, like using the paste or whatever, like it can make a difference. Like there's some people, it's very rare, but some people are like, you know, I'm taking a microdose, nothing's happening, you know, and I'm not on SSRIs and I don't know what it is. And I just tell them, I'm like, this is the start of your journey. It's for me here and to figure out, what do I need to change in my body chemistry? What do I need to change in my diet? What do I need to change in order to become compatible? And also sometimes, you know, I think that people they're just expecting to take something and they really just want to feel that
that is mental. Like, you were waiting for it to fix you. It's like, okay, if that's what you're waiting for, you just keep waiting, because you're just going to be waiting. Like, instead of just being open and allowing and being, you know, and this is what I read in the last book I was reading, is that, you know, the results, and this is in clinical trial, like the results that the people were getting were dependent on the personality and state of mind of the person administering the medicine. So people that got medicine from cold, calculated, just no personality administrators had bad trips. And then people that got medicine from a loving administrator who was asking questions and being warm, and maybe the environment was better, they had the best results. So it's like the results depend on the state of mind of the administrator and the receiver. And I mean, like that, as above, so below, as within, so without, like it's all connected, you know? And I think that's a lot of the part of why we're getting great results with people, because you have people that are literally just trying to help people from your heart, versus what the heck is that business that people are going to get Pfizer capsules. It's like, how cold and calculating are those administrators, you know?
Right.
And yeah, and so I mean that's a bit, and so turning this back around to how this can benefit you is when you are administering to yourself, what state of mind are you in?
Right. And
that's something I've been working on, is like coming at yourself from a place of self-love, and man, that changes the whole experience that you have with the stuff. So.
It really does too. And like what you're talking about is like, they've done experiments, and it all comes back to the consciousness and like the observation, like that's a huge word that's making a big difference in my life. Is like, what are you observing in your life? Whatever you observe and whatever you choose to put your attention on, that's where the energy is going to magnify. That's where it's going to grow. That's where it's going to expand, right? So attention, putting your energy and you're putting your consciousness on something, or the whole like double slit experiment thing. Like I can't even fully explain what that whole thing is, but if you go and watch it, you type in double slit experiment and you watch it, it's basically like a quantum physics experiment where they proved that like the observation of something changes it. And so you observing yourself from this day forward in a new manner, in a new way, and new habits, the observation of it. Or they even did, they did this, like there's an experiment where they had a class full of students and they told the teacher, they're like, this side over here, they like struggle a lot and they can't learn and they're kind of, you know, like slow or whatever. They said, but that side over there, they're really like, they're on it and they score really high and they do really well. And the teacher didn't know, right? I don't know how they fixed it, but somehow the teacher didn't know this. And then they did the test or whatever, and then they explored the results. And because they told the teacher that came to pass, that whole half scored low. This whole half over here scored high. And it was because the expectation, that's another important word, the expectation of the teacher was like, oh, these kids are going to struggle. Wow. So it's like expecting out of yourself. What are you expecting out of your partner? What are you expecting your body to do? Are you expecting, like, we're heading into, what season are we heading into? What does our society call this season that we're about to head into? Fall, but then what comes right after that, right? Flu season. Are you expecting to get a cold and a flu? I got the thing that, you know, everyone was getting. I got that in fall of 2020, and I have not been sick since. I haven't had anything because but it's purposefully. And here's one of my theories with this medicine too, is like, whatever you put your focus and your attention into, it's going to, what it does in our brain is it creates new neural pathways, neural circuitry. It creates literal connections in our brain that are energetic and physical. And it expands anything that we want to do or believe or think. So that way, if you want to create a new belief system in your life around anything, around health, money, wellness. So I've been working on, I'm going to explore just the fact that I can't get sick. I'm just going to start believing that, no, I'm just so healthy. My immune system's perfect. I just can't get sick. And like, there was a talk with Wayne Dyer, and he's told this funny story about, like, he was in a taxi. I don't know if you've heard it, but he was in a taxi cab, and this taxi person just kept sneezing, and they were like, they had all this tissue in their car and everything. It was just like a gross mess. And they were talking about like her cold or whatever. And she's like, you never get sick? And he's like, no, I never. And he's like, really? You never do? And she's like, what do you do? And she's like, well, or she's like, you don't believe in viruses, or you don't believe that like viruses ever. He's like, oh yeah, they definitely get on me. He's like, but I tell them to leave. And she's like, what? The virus? He's like, yeah, I tell them, you know, you're on the wrong body, go find someone else. And then like, so like basically he was telling her like I speak to my cells, I speak to my body, I tell my body what to do, I give it the commands, I expect myself to be well, I expect my body to heal and to work at an optimal level. Therefore it does, and it will. And it's not an overnight thing, but it's a process. Like your beliefs will come to pass. What you believe about yourself, what you expect out of yourself, is what you will do. And that's in any area of life. You know, if you're expecting to struggle in your business or in your finances or in your relationship, or you're expecting to fail in whatever it is that you do, most likely you will. But expectation is like it's a creative power. Your attention power, your perception. Like we have all these creative faculties that are actual like superpowers. Right. We don't know, but when we really hone into them and really like focus on those, that just can become so powerful.
And that is an eye-opener for people, because a lot of people constantly expect the worst, right? We've been trained to expect problems. We've been trained to expect disaster, expect disease, like it's a foregone conclusion. And so for people, like we can even work on this without any psychedelics, like work on what you expect to happen, like through journaling, like write it down, because when you write down stuff and you read it, you start to see how ridiculous some of the things that you think are. That's why journaling is so powerful. For me, vlogging has been powerful because I've been recording and watching videos for years. And sometimes I catch myself saying stuff that I don't even believe. I'm like, what the fuck? That's not even true. Like, you really said that about yourself, you know? And it's a beautiful thing to be able to reflect using these tools. So I highly recommend people out there use vlogging and use journaling. as part of that, because again, it goes back to how you see yourself and what you expect for yourself. And those are two things that you have all the power of control over. Like if all of the results of your life are coming from how you see yourself and what you expect for yourself, then that literally means you have full control of your life. But you have to change how you see yourself and what you expect for yourself. So yeah, I really gotta cut it now. I literally think we can go on forever and ever, and I'm just so grateful for you spending some time and you know, opening it up. And I mean, I guess a lot of people have never heard you explain your whole story, so I'm just glad that we can get a little bit of it out there. And I appreciate it.
Give you I'm never gonna inbox you to offer a reading, so please. That's not
that.
Report them, because it's so annoying. I get people reaching out to me every day. Is this you? I'm like, no, please. Like, I don't know why Instagram hasn't taken it down yet. I don't know how many people.
I can't even believe somebody thought that was really you. They're like, hey, why don't you ask her about the offering she's offering everybody? I'm like, bro, like, this is, first of all, as an influencer, our goal is to get people to catfishers. Like, once somebody catfishes your page, you made it. Like, that's how you know you're doing it, because the hackers decided your page was good enough to copy.
Crazy, right?
That's a badge of honor. So I'm like, one day I'm gonna get a catfish
don't
too.
Fall for that. Don't.
No, definitely don't.
I'm not gonna reach out and try to sell you anything at all. So just, yes, please. But yeah, thank you so much for the.
No problem. And Santa Fe asked a question. Santa Fe, we went over all of that in the beginning of the last live. So go ahead and watch the recording, because she went over like how she fell into, like how we fell into this, because there's definitely not a place to apply for psychedelic coach. No. But
so, summarize it, you know, like I took a life of hardship and struggle, and my experience of like going through all the things that I went through in my life, and I got to a really low point where I discovered this medicine. I started working with it, and it started improving my life to such a degree that I felt compelled that I had to start sharing the benefits to at least get people to go out and explore it for themselves. And then naturally, I just had people asking me, and this is what I believe is going to happen for a lot of people, like a lot like me and you, what we're doing, like this is going to happen for a lot of you who are out there on this path, who are genuine about healing people. Like, people are just becoming healers again. Like, yes, we're all healing of our body. We can heal ourselves, right? But there's also people who rise up to really just hold that space for people and remind them of their power, and remind them and to guide them, you know, because we've maybe been doing it longer, or we know some things to make things more accelerated or faster or whatever, you know. Started reaching out and asking me for advice, and so I just started giving people advice. I started leading people and helping people, and I turned from, because, you know, I've been online in business and stuff like that for like a decade. Actually, this month is probably today or this week is like my 10-year anniversary of putting in my 2-week notice and never going back to a job ever again.
Wow.
And so another gratitude thing. Thank you so much. Because like I get up, I'm like, I remember what it was like. I remember waking up to an alarm clock. I remember doing something with my life that I did not want to do, and now I get to do something with my life that I love doing. And I want to show you that it's possible for you. Whatever you think, like, man, I wish I could get paid to do that. Guess what? You actually can.
Yeah. And for you guys who don't know, Kim is a coach for business. So for you, that I just want to put it like this. At one point in my life, all I was doing was watching lives, and I was taking in information and following people who I looked up to and thinking, man, I would love to be able to do that. You know, like that was a stage of my life for a good 5 years. I'm taking in information, watching people's lives all day, following people I love. And I want people out there listening to know that you can literally be sitting in our seat in a short amount of time, if you just realize that we're already there. Like, because of the fact that you have this mindset and because you care about health, we are already peers. You guys listening to us, right? We are peers, and me and Kim need you to get up off your ass and start speaking about it more and start helping people around you more, because we couldn't do it all by ourselves. There's millions of people out there that need help and that are waiting for you to open up. And I honestly believe that we're all in this together, and that don't think that you don't deserve all of the stuff that you see. Like, you see people having fun. I'm in Florida. I started out in California. I can live wherever I want now because of this business. And as people who step up and speak truth and take the risks, right? We deserve the abundance that we get, you know? And so just think about that it's I tell people to try to keep it balanced is like, this is 50-50. I'm equal parts selfish and selfless. Like, I'm in this for you. I will go to prison for you so you can find healing. But at the same time, I'm in this for my own abundance because I know my worth. I know what I deserve. And so I hope that this conversation can help at least some of you get to that point within yourself of knowing that you deserve everything you want just because you want it, and you're willing to help others with that. So
yep, the helpers are going to be the people in this new economy. Like, I believe that we'll wrap it up with this. I know we can just keep going and going and going. we're in this new economy. It's here now. We're like, we're in a creative, where those who create, those who solve problems, those who help are going to become the most successful, rich, abundant people. And also the vibration of the earth is increasing to where, like, if you're not in a heart-based place, you just watch. There's people out there who are, by today's standards, they're rich, they're wealthy, they're successful, and all this stuff, but you know, their heart's not in the right place. You know what's going to happen? You're going to see it crumble. It's just a matter of time, because they're not going to allow anymore. The earth's not going to allow her resources to be misused anymore, any of the beings to be mistreated, and it's not going to allow people, human beings who are living on the planet, to succeed and move forward if they're not in alignment with the heart of themselves, of the spirit, of the universe, of God, of the planet. You know what I mean? So if you're that good-hearted person, you have the future set for you. You just need to get out of your comfort zone. So
let's leave it on that. That was beautiful right there. I love that. Thank you so much. We'll definitely do this again. And thank you everybody who joined and listened in.
For sure. You guys
appreciate it. All right. Have a good one. Bye. Thank you guys. That was a wonderful power hour.